Eurosport at Salzburg for round 8 of the German Super Touring Car Championship. On the pole position, choosing the left-hand starting place, it's Tom Christensen, and Laurent Aiello, the reigning champion, on the right. On row 8 of the grid is Johnny Cecotto, the points leader. Great start from Aiello and from both of the Opels, but Tom Christensen, who went to the start line knowing what nobody else did, that his clutch had started to disintegrate in qualifying, had a problem. In the morning warm-up, I beg your pardon, he had a clutch slip problem. The team adjusted it for the race, but he had clutch slip all the way up to the first chicane. Well, this is what everybody had feared, a big confrontation in the first chicane, but mercifully everybody made it through, and for Laurent Aiello, the job was already half done. He got into and out of the first chicane safely, and that was vital. Further back, there was plenty of slipstreaming action in the pack. Camera with Alexander Bergstaller there, as Eric Ellery already starting to be overtaken by his Opel teammates. Ellery started third on the grid, and it's Manuel Reuter who's gone past him. This is the camera at the third-placed car. Out front, you can already see that the Peugeot is starting to ease away. The two Hondas looking good, and Eric Ellery pulling off. Ellery, in fact, had a clutch failure, and he is now heading straight into the pits as the field continues round its first lap. Gabriele Tarquini shunted his car heavily in qualifying, was unable to defend what was then 6th on the grid and slipped down to 7th, and having seen what Christensen did, he feels that he might well have had a shot at pole if he'd been able to continue. Well, 12 laps, 50 kilometres the distance of this race, and Laurent Aiello with a second advantage, first time over the line. Manuel Reuter second. In third place, it's Christensen. Fourth, Alsen. Fifth, Tarquini. Sixth is the second Peugeot as Jörg van Ommen, but he didn't qualify too well, Van Ommen. Van Ommen only started 11th, so what a start he had had away from the grid to pick up 5 places into the first chicane. Conversely, the man who had qualified rather better in the Peugeot, in 6th position on the grid, Michael Bartels, had slid right away at the start. A disastrous first getaway for him. Well, here we come out of the hairpin at the top of the hill and onto the long, fast drag down to the paddock area. And this is the TNT Opel Vectra, the Schmidt Motorsport car of Eric Ellery. Ausmachen, turn it off. So Honda with Tom Christensen drives his car left-foot braking style, as a lot of single-seaters have taught drivers to do, and he continues that. So he doesn't use the clutch anyway. The start line problem he had anticipated has dropped him down. What a time to have it for your first ever Super Touring pole. But still, he holds on there. Manuel Reuter ahead of him, Uwe Alsen behind. And 2 seconds at the line, the gap here for Laurent Aiello. Christensen under braking. There is Uwe Alsen behind him into the chicane. There was no room for Alsen to try and move there. It really is quite narrow. That would normally just have been a flat-out slight right-hand curve there. They've moved the track over to the left and make the drivers turn sharp right, sharp left to come back onto where the old circuit line is. And Christensen under pressure from Alsen here. Tarquini, he's got Van Ommen behind him. Then the two Audis up there. That's Christian Abt and Emanuele Pirro, and they're looking quite good. Pirro qualified 9th, Abt qualified 8th. This is certainly Audi's best qualifying showing of the season so far. The two of them inside the top 10, and actually looking quite competitive here at the Salzburgring track. Well, the last 2 seasons have seen Laurent Aiello as the quickest man in the Peugeot, but prior to that it was actually a BMW circuit. Johnny Cecotto, Steve Serpa and Joe Winkelhock have all shown very well here indeed. Indeed, last year Joe Winkelhock was only just beaten by Aiello in the race into 2nd place. So despite the BMW's reliance on high downforce, which hampers them in terms of speed here, they can cut the mustard, or they have been able to in previous years. And perhaps as important as anything else in those years has been the fact that this has normally been a high-temperature race, and tyre life has been a problem. There is Roland Asch, incidentally. He's a lap down, the Nissan just going out of shot, because he was pushed off the dummy grid with an engine failing to fire. He spent an hour in one qualifying session earlier on in the season at La in the pit lane, trying to get the engine to work, and it didn't. And he had the same problem here on the dummy grid. So Roland Ash running with the leaders and at their pace, but really absolutely no chance of doing anything. He's a lap down and can't escape. Tarquini under pressure there from Van Ommen, then the two Audis, so that's quite a little train, and behind them it's the BMWs. Joe Winkelhock and Johnny Cecotto. Winkelhock started 14th, Cecotto 16th. Reuter going past Ash there, lapping him, and there they are. Cecotto has now moved ahead of his teammate. Winkelhock would have stepped to one side to let him go. Of course, Winkelhock sacrificing any championship points gathering he might have been doing earlier in the season, because Johnny Cecotto had a much better start and a consistent run through 3 back-to-back wins. And that has put him on top of the championship points table. Winkelhock now riding shotgun. Cecotto wants as many points as he can possibly get, and if Winkelhock can hold up everybody behind him for as many laps as possible, then that will be a job well done. But it's not an easy job at all for the BMWs here. They really struggle in terms of straight line speed, and I feel we may see that, because Michal Krum's Nissan is no slow coach. He is next up behind, and you can already see that the Audi and the Peugeot behind them are starting to close. And take a little look. Battle on the brakes between Christian Abt and Jörg Van Ommen, and Abt's got that, but somebody's gone off. Somebody's straight line the chicane. It's not Tarquini, I think that was the Honda of Christensen. It was. Tommy Christensen has straight lined the chicane, comes back on at maximum speed down the slip road, and he's lost 2 or 3 positions there with Christian Abt. Jörg Van Ommen has better speed and goes down inside him. Christensen may well have dirt on the tyres as well there from the pretty much unused escape road, and he nearly there. Here's a replay as he comes straight towards the camera. He was nearly pushed off at the hairpin as well there, so he's probably got a little bit of grass from the curbing. So there is Tarquini then, ahead of Christian Abt, then Jörg Van Ommen, then Tommy Christensen, and we ride with him. And although we didn't know it now, in fact we found out that the reason he missed the braking area and ran through the chicane there in the sprint was that he'd lost first gear. And he'd only been crunching it into the gearbox of that chicane without much for 3 laps, and already first had given up the ghost. You can tell just what the stresses are of a modern 2-litre touring car on slick tyres, trying to wrangle all that through a poor unsuspecting gearbox without the cautionary use of a clutch. And he had lost first gear, and that will cost him dear, because it is no question about it a first gear corner the hairpin, and he doesn't have that option term. He'll be coming across the line here now into 5th, up into 6th gear, and from 6th, hard on the brakes. Now you'll see the noses bob just momentarily as they dive under braking, down into, well, Christensen into 2nd, and that will hold up everybody behind him. Alexander Burgstaller behind Frank Bieler, the former British touring car champion there in the Audi, and that's Michal Krum ahead of them. This is the queue then behind the BMWs. As they turn right here, you'll see the BMs, there they are. Krum, Bieler and Burgstaller, they're next up. Behind them, incidentally, is the orange BMW of Christian Menzel, if you get a chance to see them from the outside. You can't see that, you can only see Alexander Burgstaller's helmet bobbing around in the mirror, but Menzel is right there. In fact, he's not, he's been dropped now because Manuel Reuter has worked his way in there, and Reuter wasn't there a couple of laps ago. He may well have outbraked Menzel out of our sight, and Menzel has dropped back a little bit and seems to be falling into the clutches of Stefano Modena Alfa. Classic slipstreaming Salzburg stuff here. Winkelhock slipstreaming Cecotto to get maximum speed, and here into the paddock turn. It doesn't actually have an official name, but it's around the paddock. It circumnavigates the paddock, in fact. It goes all the way around and back out past it, and that is the classic overtaking position there. Michal Krum now right up on the tail of Joe Winkelhock, but here's our leader, Laurent Aiello, with now at least 3.5 seconds over Manuel Reuter. 3rd is Uwe Alsen there, 4th is Tarquini, 5th Abt, 6th Van Ommen, 7th Christensen, 8th Pirot, 9th is still Cecotto, but look at that, up into 10th, yes, comes Michal Krum. He overtook under power there. He didn't have to outbrake Joe Winkelhock, he'd got past him on acceleration, and Winkelhock's job won't do Cecotto any good if he goes off into the gravel trying to outbrake a position that he's already lost. His job is to now hold up everybody else. Frank Bieler at the hairpin here looking for a way past, but oh, Burgstaller, he's been sandbagged. He's got Bartels gone past him now. Now they come out of the hairpin in 3rd gear. They're already in 5th gear, into 6th gear now as they come out of this long left-hander. They continue down the hill, then it starts to climb again into the slight right-hand kink, approaching the maximum speed. In these cars, it's around 155 miles an hour, just about here. 130 miles an hour in 6th gear. They enter the curve. There's a dab of the brakes before they go in, and look at them all, slipstreaming each other furiously all the way around the track. No movement there in terms of changes of position, but everybody's showing their nose and having a little look around. And it's a very difficult thing to judge, being close enough to the car ahead to be sucked along by the low pressure area that he generates, and to slow him down as the low pressure pulls his car back towards yours, but not actually to hit him under braking. Pirot making a move. No, he's not. Had a look at Christensen, but couldn't do it there. But look, Krum now on a consecutive lap. He passed Winkelhock like that last time. He gets past Cecotto this time. Bergstaller, Bartels, Bieler ahead of us, and then in order, Winkelhock ahead of him and Cecotto at the front of that queue, but now Krum leads them. So Michael Krum heading them away as Bartels makes another great move at the hairpin. He passed Bergstaller there last lap. He really does like that corner. Well, we saw Joe Winkelhock using that to great effect last year. Generally, drivers don't tend to like overtaking at the hairpin there, though. It's a 2nd gear entry, and it is quite easy to get a little bit lost, get inside somebody and just have them power around the outside, and then you lose track position. Bergstaller now with 2 cars to draft. He's going with Bartels. Bartels is on the inside. Bergstaller gets inside Bieler as well. He goes past. Bieler's got no answer to that at all. So Bergstaller follows Bartels past Bieler. Lots of B's there. Winkelhock and Cecotto ahead of them. Krum not really pulling away though, is he? Despite his ability to just drive past the BMWs. Well, they're in 3rd gear through here. 3rd gear through the right-hander, still in 3rd, accelerating hard now out of the left-hander, snatching 4th on the curbs, and then up to 5th gear here. And by this stage, Krum was alongside in a straight line when he came past the leaders, but he can't do anything about them now. He's in 7th place. And now Michael Bartels having a look at Joe Winkelhock. Doesn't happen there. Christian Menzel very, very late indeed on the brakes. He really is trying to tow his way back up onto the tail of this group. But it's lucky for him that it's a 1st gear chicane and pretty slow. Otherwise he would have lost more time than he gained there. So, chasing Bartels now out of the hairpin. 4th gear. 5th gear now, and building up speed. Bartels chasing Winkelhock, and this is where the move will come from this time. Bartels already starting to show him the nose. He's very, very close indeed to the tail of Winkelhock's car. He's going around the outside, around the long way. Well, that's brave. Winkelhock's right up by the grass on the inside there, and Bartels just drives past. Goodness me, and so does Bergstaller, as if Winkelhock just sort of slowed down and let them go. Well, I have to say I find that hard to imagine that he would actually willingly wave them past, but perhaps it really is just the sign of how much extra momentum they're getting out of that hairpin corner in terms of acceleration. That's really where the BMW loses on high-speed straights, because it does have a very upright rear wing to generate plenty of grip for those driven rear wheels. Of course, not a problem that front drivers have. And now Bartels driving past Johnny Cecotto. No, Venezuelan proving a little more difficult to outbrake there. He really didn't make the move early enough, I don't think. Not in the way that Krum did on Winkelhock and then Cecotto in subsequent laps. So Cecotto with Bartels and Bergstaller next up. Then it's Winkelhock. Then we've got Frank Bieler. He's on the back of that group. Christian Menzel really can't stay in contact, can he? He's being dropped away again. Not really under threat from Stefano Modena. Laurent Aiello, I remind you, still leading this race by the proverbial country mile. Again, Cecotto under pressure from Bartels. Bartels under pressure from Bergstaller as well. Bartels has lost the toe there. I think Cecotto may have neglected to use the brake pedal at that stage. Bartels just having a little lift and dropping way back. Bergstaller right with him. Now this corner here, the long right-hander they've just gone through, the paddock turn is really critical. The drivers have to set the car up to survive that for the 12 laps here and for the 24 laps of the sprint. They have to use the same tyre, incidentally, that they did their qualifying on for the whole of the sprint race and for the first lap of the main race, which effectively means all of the main race. And Michelin warning them to be very, very careful as Biela sandbags or duffs his way past at least Joe Winkelhock. Franz Engstler's been off there, spoiler damage at the front, so he's been through some rough ground or through the gravel traps. Cecotto now with Bartels behind him, then Bergstaller, then Biela, and then Winkelhock on the back of that group. And here is Engstler getting it all wrong in the left-hander out of that paddock turn, and that's why, I wonder if that was broken before he went into the gravel. Didn't really get to see that, but he's got no steering. Precious little braking there either. Well, the Opels second and third, Altzen and Reuter. But Laurent Aiello leading comfortably as Johnny Cecotto fights for survival here, battling for every single point, and Michael Bartels will want to take that extra position away from him, because every position that Bartels can put Cecotto further down will aid Laurent Aiello. Aiello will take maximum points, 30 points if he wins this race, but the fewer that Cecotto gets, the better Peugeot will like it. Bergstaller looking to make a move, but I don't think he had the room there. Maybe he does. He's going around the outside, and let's look at it from straight ahead. He just eases a little bit over to Cecotto, and Cecotto goes, get a life. Not on your Nelly, not on the last lap, certainly. I'm holding on to this place. You're going to have to do better than that, Sunshine. Alexander Bergstaller will try again. Aiello leading then, and Cecotto waving furiously in the mirrors to Bergstaller. Bergstaller right on his bumper, and Cecotto can really do without this. Cecotto needs to finish. He must finish these races. He must survive them and get whatever points he possibly can, and he really doesn't want Bergstaller to tap him off. I tell you, if Alexander Bergstaller's Opel touches the back of the BMW and Cecotto fails to finish, there will be some very severe words being had in the pits afterwards. But there's no need, because Bergstaller can just mirror signal manoeuvre, pull out and drive round Cecotto. Cecotto goes down a spot as Aiello comes to the line at the end of the 12-lap sprint. Laurent Aiello wins for Peugeot, and vive la France! He takes 30 points to aid his championship tally. In second place, Uwe Altzen, ahead of Manuel Reuter, who was ahead of him earlier on, and it's all very argy-bargy there. Joe Winkelhock gets a place back from Frank Biela in the death. Bergstaller has got past Cecotto, so Cecotto has gone down to 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th position as they cross the line. 13th for Winkelhock. Well, Charlie Lamb was right. Top 10 position proving elusive here in the sprint. Maybe they'll have a better chance in the main race when tyre wear might be more of a factor. Michelin warning the drivers to be very conservative about their tyres, not to use excessive pressures, and particularly not to use excessive camber here. Well, there's the result then. Aiello, Altzen, Reuter, Abt, Tarquini, Van Ommen, Pirot, Christensen, Krum and Bartels.